Welcome to the Seeing Red podcast with Andi Turner and Garrett Fulce, checking up on Texas policies and politics with some federal issues thrown in, like the assault weapons ban, interest rate hikes, you get it, but it's mostly Texas, since we can't ignore the big stuff either. And now, here are your hosts, Andi Turner and Garrett Fulce.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's edition of Seeing Red. We're very happy to have you all here. Please make sure that you like and subscribe if you are watching on YouTube. And if you are on the podcast, make sure that you are subscribing there so you don't miss a single minute. You can find us, if you want to make comments, at facebook.com/the Seeing Red Pod. You can email us if you prefer that, hosts, HOSTS, at seeingredpodcast.com. And you can find us on Twitter at the Seeing Red Pod. And we have a really special guest today, and I'm very excited. I worked with him a couple years ago, and he's just a true Texas gentleman. Garrett, tell everybody who we've got.
Absolutely. We got a special guest today. You've probably seen it in the thumbnail or somewhere else, but we have Representative Cole Hefner today from Texas House District 5 in the Texas House of Representatives. Representative Hefner was born and raised in East Texas and currently resides in Mount Pleasant. He has a district that represents Camp County, Rains County, Titus County, Upshur, Wood, and parts of Smith County. So this is East Texas, deep behind the pine curtain. Before being elected to the state house, he was a county commissioner in Upshur County, and he owned a construction company for 16 years, eventually took over his family's construction company. And today he owns a small business owner of an insurance company. Cole has been happily married to his wife, Carrie, since 2002, and they are blessed with 7 children. So welcome to the show today, Representative Cole Hefner. How are you doing today, Representative?
Man, I'm doing great. Thank you all for having me on your show.
Fantastic. Well, there was a primary recently, and I was looking at the results, and I hadn't seen anything crazy. It looks like you beat your 2 opponents quite handily. What was the final on that?
We were just shy of 70% of the vote.
Wow.
That is a number we wanted to get to, but didn't think it would happen in reality. And so when we got really close, and so we were really pleased. It felt good. It felt good to know that our people like the job that we're doing.
Well, that's great. Well, it was interesting because did any of the statewides endorse against you?
Yes, one, I believe.
Was it Sid Miller or was it Ken Paxton?
It was Ken Paxton. That's the only one I remember being statewide going against me. Yes.
Yeah. He didn't do too well in his endorsements unless it was coincided with somebody that the governor endorsed. I think he was only won 2 against people that, the governor, it was just like, his efforts were quite poor on the state house level, though you got to give him, it looks like he was probably the driving force behind getting the Court of Criminal Appeals justices primaried, I think, was from what I can tell. But, that was the long and short of it. Looking back to that vote and how it was handled, the impeachment vote, do you think, do you have any reflections now, nearly 10 months later?
It's been something we've talked about. I feel like I took the right vote. I stand behind my vote. We had a lot of reasons to believe that there were some problems there that needed a closer look. And so the House took action to send that to the Senate to have a closer look taken. And, the process that we followed was the same exact process that was used to expel a member of the House. There was no complaints about the process that was used in that situation. And so basically the same process through the same committee was followed. It did move kind of fast. I think we saw the outside influence that was just like nothing I'd ever seen come down on the Senate for the trial. I think the House must have made the decision to move quickly so that people didn't experience that level of outside pressure. And so, could we have done some things different? I think we could have done a little better job telling our story over the summer. If you'll remember, there was a gag order that was placed right before campaign finance reports were filed. We saw a huge donation to the lieutenant governor that had been donated. And so, I think we should have ignored the gag order and talked to our voters and told the story about why we did what we did. And so I think the House took the right action. We saw that there were problems. We sent it to the Senate. They took their action. And now it's time for us to get back to work.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be any reforms to the impeachment process that is born from this, how this one went down?
It's hard to say. There's still a lot has happened since then, and there's still a lot yet to happen between now and next session. Every session has its own personality, its own atmosphere, its own feel, and so we still don't yet know what that's going to look like. But I mean, I think there's probably on the trial side and the impeachment side, there's going to be some people that are looking at it, and we'll just have to see what comes along.
Well, not everybody who, was as blessed as you, not all the incumbents got 70% in their elections. Some folks are still in an election. There's a number of runoffs that are going to be happening. The most notable one, of course, involves Speaker Dade Phelan. What are your thoughts on the speaker's race? Not the speaker race, the Speaker Phelan's runoff race. Do you think what do you think? Are you seeing anything on the ground? Have you heard from stuff that's coming out of there? What do you think?
Yeah, I think his team has done some evaluating of where they are and how they got to where they are, and I think there's a plan in place to execute for the runoff. I think Speaker Phelan's done a good job for his district. He's done a good job representing the conservative values of Southeast Texas. The results of the session prove that up. And I think when you get in a runoff, it's never a fun place for an incumbent to be in a runoff. But a lot of people try to nitpick who got first place, who got second. Are they 3 points ahead, 4 points behind? And when you go into a runoff, the score is 0-0. I've been in 2 runoffs before, won them both, but I was second place in one of them and first place in the other. And so runoffs they're extra. Campaigns are miserable. People that say, I love campaign and I love campaign. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? But there are some really, really good parts of the campaign. Don't hear me wrong, but there are some hard parts. But in a runoff, it's especially hard. And so, but I think they're going to be working hard. Got a lot of conservative victories to run on. And I'm hopeful that he prevails in that race.
Yeah.
I mean, there were tons.
And so, I'm a big fan of Dade Phelan, and I'm watching this race, and I'm watching certain groups try to make this into some sort of referendum on his job as speaker. But he was not elected by the people of his district to be speaker. He was elected to represent them. And to my eyes, and I think Garrett probably shares this opinion, but I will let him weigh in on that. He has represented them very, very well. And so the race, hopefully, and not being down in that area, I don't know, but I have some friends. I want that race to stay about, did he represent our values? Did he represent us correctly? How we want to be represented, and not some house politics stuff on what his title is. So either he did the job in public policy that you wanted him to do, or he didn't. And I know from watching that all of the conservative initiatives that the governor called for, that he called for, that the lieutenant got, those all got through. I mean, 2021, we got 19 2A bills through alone. And that would not have happened had Speaker Phelan not been on board. I mean,
well, and I'll tell you, I'm a fan of Governor Abbott. I think he's doing a great job, especially with the border, keeping our state a leader in economics with a low governmental burden. And so businesses are allowed to thrive. We're one of the freest states in the country. And, but, we've been trying to pass permitless carry. We've been trying to ban abortion. We've been trying to do historic property tax relief. There's a lot of issues that we've been working on for decades, and not until Dade Phelan becomes speaker did these these pieces of legislation begin to move. And, it doesn't matter who you like or who you don't like. The truth matters. Results matter. And the results show that we've had the two most conservative sessions we've ever had under the most conservative speaker we've ever had. And like I say, every speaker has their challenges, right? Everyone has their strong suits and their weak suits. Some of them are more involved in the details. Some of them are more standoffish, more hands off. Some are high pressure, some are low pressure. And so there's always, members that say, boy, I wish we'd have done this. I wish we'd have done that. I wish I could have done more, whatever. But we need to it's about more than just an individual member. It's not about me. It's not about what committee I get to serve on or what bill I get to carry or what chair I get to sit in. It's about what best policy that we can pass for our state. And when you look at historic Second Amendment bills, banning abortions, guys, we had 56,000 abortions performed in this state in 2019. In 2023, after the heartbeat bill and after the trigger ban, we had less than 40 medical abortions performed in this state. So if that's the only victory that we achieve in my time in the Texas House, that is monumental in my book. That's the reason, that issue is why I got involved in the first place. And abortions are banned in Texas. We didn't slow them down. We didn't put up a hurdle. We said, boom, they're illegal. Now, we do have some other things. There's abortion pills, chemical abortions that are still coming in. That's a complicated issue. I filed a bill on that actually last session. They're being mailed from Canada, from Cuba, in pet medicine boxes. And so there's still work to be done there. But the fact is 56,000 abortions were not performed in Texas that were in 2019. You look at the massive property tax relief, $18 billion. Everybody's pretty much homestead or home property taxes went down. We've got people out there saying that they're telling lies that we raised their property taxes when we in fact lowered those property taxes. Look what we did to protect kids. We banned dirty books in our schools. We banned kids at drag shows. We banned kids on pornographic websites. We made it harder for kids to get on social media sites. We banned boys and girls sports. We banned men and women's sports. And so many things that we've done for our kids, from abortion all the way up through college there. The border security bills, the strongest border security bills ever passed in the history of the state, allowing this, authorizing state law enforcement to enforce those, to catch people and punish them for coming into our country illegally. And the list just goes on and on. And so for people who say that we don't have a conservative speaker or we don't have a conservative House, they're just ignoring the facts. And to be blunt, they're just telling you a lie.
Well,
agreed. Go ahead,
there's so much misinformation that came out during the elections outright, during the primary, especially from this group of folks who align with Defend Texas Liberty, Texas Scorecard, formerly Empower Texans. Now it's Texans United for something, as well as all their affiliate organizations of Texas Gun Rights and Texans for Vaccine Choice, which didn't used to be part of the group and now is. And we have all of these different groups that are kind of fall into this ecosystem that are pushing out the same talking points from the primary donors of those groups, which end up being Tim Dunn and the Wilkes brothers. So there are a few of those champions, quote unquote, in the Texas House, notably Brian Harrison, Steve Toth, Nate Schatzline, and Tony Tinderholt. I think Brian Harrison came out this week and was saying that this was the most liberal session in the state's history. You just listed off a lot of stuff. Is that a liberal platform you just kind of listed off, or is that a conservative platform? Or is Brian Harrison just lying to everybody again? Right.
When he's made that statement on Twitter, he lied. That's just all there is to it. The agenda that we passed last session and the one before is the most conservative on anybody's scale anywhere in the country. I mean, these are massive, landmark, historic wins that happened in the state of Texas and not before Speaker Phelan became the speaker. And so, did we get everything we wanted? No, we didn't. There's always more work to do, but we got a lot of massive wins. I mean, permitless carry. You haven't been able to carry a gun without a permit in a couple hundred years, and so. Carrying a gun to your hotel room, not closing gun stores, gun manufacturers, shooting ranges, things like that for any reason, like a pandemic or any other kind of disaster. So make sure people have access to those places. Making Texas a sanctuary state for the Second Amendment. Clarifying where you can and can't carry a firearm. And like Andi said, I don't know how many bills we passed. She said 19 in 2021. I think we passed about a dozen last session. And so these are massive wins. And it saddens me. It disappoints me that some people in the conservative movement, which I am part of, I was a joint author on constitutional carry. I was a joint author on SB4 when the House version. I filed a boys and girls sports bill. Got a hearing on that in 2021, the first hearing on it. And so I think Rep. Swanson actually wound up passing that in a special election in 2021, the strongest election integrity bills we've ever had of anybody in the country. So it saddens me. It's disappointing to see people that say that they're Christian conservatives and then go to Twitter, go to podcasts, go on the news and just tell lies. And I think it does. I think it damages our conservative movement. Heck, it damages the witness of Christians to say, whoa, I know that's not what's happening, but they're saying this and they claim to be Christian. What's going on here? And so we have plenty of problems in our state and country and issues that we need to be working on without telling lies about what we're doing. And so that's what I hope we get back to, doing the work and telling the truth about it.
Good. I do have a question for you. I did not catch this on Twitter, even though I sit on my phone on Twitter for hours. So I didn't catch this. Did Senator Harrison say why this was the most liberal session ever?
I don't remember the details. I do believe he cited some things that he pointed to, some resolutions that were passed and maybe some things that didn't get passed. I don't remember the exact details.
Some resolutions, not actual laws.
I'm pretty sure there was a resolution that was alluded to, and then probably some laws that we did not pass. And so don't quote me on that because I'm going by memory. And I was scrolling, and I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it, but I scrolled by the tweet. So, but yeah.
Do you think
that's go ahead?
Sorry, as we've the speaker is in a runoff, but there's going to be a speaker's race regardless when you get to session, because there's already people announcing for their bid to run for speaker, notably out of the Houston area, out of HT 29, Dr. Oliverson has announced that he is running for speaker. He also cited a couple bills that didn't get passed and a number of other things. Is there anything in particular? There's going to be. He's not really from that group of folks with the FinTech Liberty, but he is Dan Patrick's neighbor. He's more kind of just adjacent to it. Do you think that Tom has a chance of being speaker in the next session?
That's hard to say. There's so much to happen between now and then. I think everybody's more focused on these runoffs, and in particular, Speaker Phelan's runoff. And so, does he have a chance? I don't know. It kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't see it coming. Tom's a friend of mine. We came in together, and share a lot of the same political philosophies. And so, but I think we're focused on the primary runoffs and then hopefully getting the same speaker reelected so that we can continue to build on these successes that we've had in the last two sessions.
Do you think that if the speaker returns to the House and retains the gavel, what do you think session will be like in your relationship with the Senate and everything else, given the amount that Dan Patrick has campaigned, not just against the speaker, but against a number of state reps?
It's going to create some challenges. I believe, though, that the House will do what it's always done, and we will rise to the occasion to focusing on what is good policy for our constituents. I do think it's important that the House maintain its position as the House and the Senate maintain their position as the Senate. There's a reason that we have a House and a Senate. There's a reason that the Lieutenant Governor is elected statewide and that the Speaker is elected by the members of the House. And there's a reason to have, checks and balances on one another, so that we don't have one House ruling over the other and trampling on those checks and balances that our founders wisely put in place. And so, it'll be a challenge. I'll tell you, to have the presiding officer of the Senate come into House races is not common. It's kind of unprecedented. And I'm not going to try to sugarcoat things. He endorsed me kind of at the last minute. I was not expecting that, but he did. And, typically on policy, I agree. I don't agree on coming and getting involved in House politics. I think the House needs to run the House, the Senate needs to run the Senate. And I think that's to protect the checks and balances. So right now we have conservative leadership, but we may not always have that. And so we don't need to tear down those rules and barriers that protect from one party running over the other for the fact that one of these days we may be in the minority. And we don't need one person running both houses. We need the House to be the House, Senate be the Senate. And so there'll be some challenges coming back in the next session. But I think the vast majority of people in the House and Senate want to do what's best for this state. And we'll rise above it all and do what's best for our people.
So I'm going to pick at something that you said. So you brought up the state party. And as people who listen to the show know, that I don't have a whole lot of patience for the current head of the RPT, Matt Raldi. As I have said, probably more than people want to hear, it is my opinion that the head of the state party has 3 jobs: raise money, get Republicans in seats, and register Republican voters. That's your job. We don't take sides in primaries. We stay out of it. And then when the general comes up, we go. And I, not being born in this state, you guys know, and Cole, you may or may not remember, I'm a refugee from a very liberal state, not California, guys, California East. So I'm just wondering, do you think, you've lived here a lot longer than I have. Do you think I'm off the mark here?
My belief in what the party should be doing, like you said, recruiting people to run in those seats that don't have Republicans in them, raising money for the party, getting voters registered, getting voters turned out. And that costs money to raise money to do those things. I think to have a conservative platform and to have a party that can promote that platform as a positive, we need, as a conservative rep from rural East Texas, we need a honest rightward pressure on the process. If you don't have pressure on the process, everything kind of drifts to the middle. And so I think it's important to have that influence from the right to push policy initiatives and ideas and things like that. But it needs to be done in an honest, constructive, productive way. And what we've seen is so many of our county parties and our state party have kind of left that original mission of turning out the vote, registering voters, getting people to run in those seats, telling the story of republicanism, and they've become to weaponize themselves against the office holders that are elected in the very areas they represent, that they come from. And so, I like to say this, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful at all. I appreciate the party structure. I think it's important. I was a precinct chair originally. It was the first office I ever held. I was appointed in a county before anybody ran for precinct chairs, and so I appreciate that framework and the influence and the job that they do. But when I run for election, I'm not working for a party. I'm working for my voters, my constituents. I work for the people in my district. The party can change. We've seen party go from moderate to conservative and back. And so, but East Texas stays the same, right? And so we need to be careful that we're working for the people that hire us, and we're working with our party, not for the party. And so hopefully we're working on the same goals and we're doing the same. But it's frustrating when you're one of the top conservatives in the House and you're fighting liberalism and the challenges that come with Austin, the normal stuff that comes. And then while you're down there, facing people in the front, you're getting shot in the back home. And so many times it's based on lies. It's based on, misinformation will be putting it mildly. It's just, it's disheartening to see that happening. And so we don't need to be fighting from our back when we're down there fighting the liberals in the front. We need support. We need help. And we need that rightward pressure that I was telling you about. And so anyway, it's luckily most of the people, appreciate the job we're doing. They see the results. They see their tax bill going down. They see the gun bills. They see the, banning DEI and CRT and banning cities that defund the police and the border security things. They're seeing what's going on. But so that's kind of my idea of what the party should be doing, is more of that fundamental goal: get out the vote, get people registered, raise money, promote the platform, give us some support on those conservative principles that we're trying to move, not just weaponizing itself against some of the most conservative. We saw the party attack some of the most conservative people and then even leave more moderate members alone in the primary, completely leave them on, hands off. Yep. And so it's like, what are we really trying to accomplish? Why are we attacking conservative members of the House and not more moderate members? What are we really after here? Is there money being made? I mean, are these groups, somebody's paying for all this mail. Somebody's paying for these text messages. Somebody gets paid to draft those speeches, to draft those, to draw those mailers up. Somebody's getting paid somewhere, a lot of money to do those type of things. And so we need people that are here to make a difference, not make money off of misinformation.
Yeah. Well,
there you go. That's perfect.
Well, Matt Raldi has announced that he's not seeking another term as RPT chairman. Do you think he's gearing up to run for something in 2026, or do you think he's just going to go make some money?
I don't know. He's an attorney. He's a pretty intelligent guy. And so he's probably got a lot of options out there. I've heard a lot of different rumors, but couldn't tell you. But I'm hoping that we see somewhat of a course change, not to moderate or to become less conservative. I don't want to see us do that. I want to stay conservative. I want to keep that pressure up. But I think it needs to be done in a more honest way.
Sure. Do you think did you participate in the county conventions this weekend? Did you go give some speeches, or
so I wasn't able?
Did you get elected as a delegate?
No, I went to my precinct convention a couple of weeks ago, and then my kids had sports things on Saturday, but my wife is a delegate and I'm an alternate, and
okay.
So nice.
We will be there with bells on, so to cast our vote for those party offices.
Yeah, I served on the nominations committee in my SD, and we did not have enough people attend our SD to. Like, we had more slots for delegates than we did people attend our SD. So basically everyone who wanted to go was just like, it was just a effort of collecting information. But right. It was, but that which was crazy to me, because 15 years ago, I went to the same SD convention, SD 17 in Fort Bend County. And at that time, there were hundreds of people who showed up. There was a massive process and fight over nominations. And today, I mean, we had like 100 people, maybe a little less than 100. Fort Bend County used to be as red as Montgomery County, and today it's a purple leaning blue county. And like, we won 6 out of the 13 judicial races, but we lost everything else at countywide in the last election. So I guess I say that. Is there anything that you think the party can be doing to kind of, one of the reasons why Fort Bend started drifting that way is we started losing educated women as a party, and there's not a large Hispanic vote in Fort Bend County. There's a lot of immigrants in Fort Bend County, but not Hispanic. What do you think is kind of the way to win back those suburban women voters, just for the party as a whole?
I think this is the nastiest primary that I've ever seen. And my first primary involvement was in 2010. And the attacks I saw, the way it has played out has been about the worst I've ever seen. And I've talked to people that have been involved since 1980, and they say, man, they've never seen it like this. And so it's getting hard to get everyday good folks to participate in the process, because as soon as you disagree with somebody, they not only go after you at the convention hall, they want to go after you personally. They want to go after your business. They want to go after your family.
Yeah.
We had people, threatening to kill the Speaker of the House. That's where we are in some of these races, and so it's getting harder to get good people because people are busy, right? I have 7 kids. I have kids in baseball. One's in the Army, and so it's busy. And so they're living their lives, making a living, trying to pay bills. And when you ask them, hey, can you come volunteer for this? And they go, sure. And they walk in, and it's just, I had a man in my choir at church that I put on the delegate list at the precinct convention. He went Saturday, and he's like, dang, dude, what, we're going to stay involved, but wow, it's kind of crazy down there. And so, yeah, it's a trend that worries me. Like I said, I don't think we should moderate our message. I don't think we need to be liberal. I don't think we need to back off of pro-life and pro-gun and pro-God and those things that we are. But there's definitely a way to do things without being hateful and dishonest. And we have plenty of problems without making them up. And so, yeah, until we get that mentality back, that we're going to be happy warriors, positive and honest, we're going to have a challenge for a little while.
It's called civility. When I first moved here almost 5 years ago, I went to the county to go be a delegate at the RPT Convention, and I was appointed a delegate. But I have like loads of GOP, campaigns and county committee, and like my resume is long with Republican endeavors. So I just stapled that to the application because nobody knew me. But I found that it was at that time, I did not go this year. But I found at the time that, like, I'm more of a Reagan Republican, and I tend to not opine on social issues. And I have no problem with anybody's standpoint on whether you are far right or if you are more moderate, whatever. Smaller, more efficient government, less taxes. Those are my 3, things. And that kind of covers a lot of what you've been talking about. But I found that going to this convention, I was basically, they put baby in a corner because they wanted to pass this plank that said that a family was defined as a natural born man, a natural born woman, and no natural born children. And I was like, well, I'm divorced. At the time I was divorced. I have adopted my children. So I'm not a family. And they were like, that's not what we mean. I'm like, but that's what you said. And so if you put this forward, this is what you're advocating for. And so fortunately at the time we had a different RPT chair, and they had the executive committee had the intelligence to go, not so much. But it was very chilly in that room.
Well, and like I said, I'm a social conservative first, So that's the issue. The abortion issue is what got me to looking at this whole thing at all.
Sure.
But usually, typically, somebody that is pro-life, that believes in traditional marriage and those things, they're usually going to be pretty good on taxes, regulation, and guns and those things. They
Right.
typically intertwine. I mean,
Yes.
occasionally you'll see somebody
Absolutely.
that's socially moderate, fiscally conservative, but usually everything kind of lines up. But we have a diverse state, right? So we have 86 Republicans. We don't have 86 Cole Hefners because we don't have 86 House District 5s. We have Highland Park. We have River Oaks. We have Alamo Heights. We have rural, suburban, urban. So even in the Republican caucus, we have, geez, I just lost the word. But anyway, we're very diverse. We have a lot of diversity, even in the Republican caucus. And so when we have a member that votes with us on 8 or 9 things, say they vote for the kid bills, the abortion bill, all the gun bills, but man, he can't go for constitutional carry. Well, golly, he voted for me on all these other 9 issues. And so I'm going to go primary him, put somebody in there that can't win a general. And then a Democrat's going to win, and I'm going to get 0 votes out of 10. And so that person that votes with me 8 or 9 times is definitely my friend. And, we wind up turning that seat blue and not getting any votes out of it. So again, you want to keep that rightward pressure up, but you got to let members represent their districts. And that's what we've seen in the House. We'll have elections after every cycle, every session. We come home, we run under the laws and the voting record that we have, and we have to reapply for our jobs. People say we should have term limits. I submit that we do have term limits. I get 1 term, and then I have to reapply. I have to be rehired every time. And so, and it's a good process. I kind of wished it wasn't every 2 years, but because it gets expensive, but it does keep us close. I knocked on thousands of doors with my knuckles. And I had good conversations with families, with individuals. There's nothing better to connect you to those people to find out what's important to them than just going to see them at their door. They're all very appreciative. Most people want to talk. There's a few that don't want to be bothered, and that's fine. You just move on to the next one. But anyway, the process that we serve under, it seems so perverted and corrupt, and it is in some ways, but it's still the best system on the planet. And it takes citizen involvement to keep it working. It doesn't work well if people don't participate. And but yeah,
which is my attitude with my kids and my friends who are, maybe Republicans, maybe Democrats. I don't care. Be educated on the issues. Show up and vote. I mean, I care. I do. And we're going to have those conversations, but show up and vote.
There were very few people under the age of 50 at my convention. Mm-hmm. We don't have a lot of people under that, and I'm using that as youth. I think the median age, according to like the stuff I saw with Derek Ryan as the early voting was happening, of like the primary voters was something like in the 60s. I think ended up around 65. I could be wrong, but
the average voter was in the 60s, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's the average. That means half of people are older than that. So we have a problem when we don't have youth participating in that. We don't need a ton. We just need some. I think I was the youngest delegate from my SD. And I'm in my 30s. Like there should be some people, like there should be some representation below that. So we have an issue there. Sure. You did touch on a point I wanted to touch on, where it's like we can elect somebody and then they'll lose in a general election. It isn't always right away though. Both Don Huffines and Matt Rinaldi beat out more moderate members in 2014, and then they lost their elections big time in 2018, just a couple years later. So you got to have a larger look at like what the district is trending. It might not happen right away, but if you start taking out some of the more moderate members in these more moderate districts, you might win the first election or two. but eventually things are going to shift. There's going to be a blue shift in the national politics. As you know, as it happens, it's cyclical, and we're going to lose those seats because of it.
It's scary, and things are changing all the time. We're watching those demographics, and trying to work through it, work with it. In our district out here, we're 80-20. When you go to the polls in November, it's 80-20. It doesn't matter. And, Louis Gohmert used to say that he lives in the best district in the country. He said, man, I just go down here and I don't have to call my people and say, what do you think? I can just vote my vote. And that just lines up with the people. And that's the way I feel. Very rarely do I have a vote that I'm like, man, I wonder where my district is on this issue. I usually just vote what I believe, and that's what they believe. And so, but the state's not like that all over. And so there's many members that are more conservative than their districts. Mm-hmm. And so we're blessed to have those in those districts to keep that rightward pressure up while we can. And so, I'm proud of the record we've accumulated in the last couple of sessions. And I just hope that we can keep it together and keep building on it.
We got to keep and build on those seats. And that's where the civility, right? I'm not, I've said this before on the show. We've had Jared Patterson on the show. And when I first met him, his Twitter said, I'm conservative, but I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
And, I may not be hard right, but I'm not mad about it. Like you alluded to this in something you said a few minutes ago. And it's what Reagan said. If we agree on 7 of our 10 issues, then we can be friends and we can work together.
Right.
That's it. That is it.
Well, and I've gotten some pretty good knockdown dragouts with some of the most conservative members on the House. Me and Jared are good friends. He had a bill in the 21 session that I was adamantly opposed to, and we argued about it, and I voted against it all the way through the process. And so nobody's going to agree 100% of the time.
Correct.
But you can do that in the right way. You can be principled, you can be strong, and you can fight like crazy for your beliefs without just trampling all over somebody that was elected. We had, when I was a county commissioner, we had some county officials that were at each other's throats. And it got so bad that they would attack each other in public. And I finally said, I'm not going to put up with this anymore, because those officials, the sheriff, the DA, the district judge, county judge, whoever it was, county clerk, whoever it was, they were elected by the people. The people sent them there to work for them. And so I should show those voters respect by respecting the person that they chose to represent them. I may disagree with that person. I may think he's wrong or her, but their voters sent them there. And so I'm going to respect that, and I'm going to work real hard to pass the laws that I think is best for the state and for my district, but I'm not going to disrespect that person. And it's got to where this just treating people right is just going out the window. The ends justify the means. And so lying is okay. Personal attacks are okay. Misinformation is okay. As long as we're supposedly, as long as we say we're going for the right thing, we can act like total heathens on the way. And I do think that doing things the right way is almost as important as doing the right thing. And so, like I said, I've gotten some pretty good fights with some people that I agree with nearly 100% of the time. And so, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Was there any topic you wanted to talk about today that we didn't touch on?
If y'all think we've covered everything good, let's see. We talked about the outside groups and the dishonesty there. So I guess we've about covered it, unless y'all can think of anything.
Well, I mean, there's always news happening. So if there's something you want to talk about that come out, we'd let you.
Yeah.
But where can people find more information about you, or maybe donate to your campaign?
We have our website. It's just colehefner.com. We have an email there that they can go to, cole@colehefner.com. Email us if they have any questions. Of course, we have our state stuff. If they have any constituent issues or questions about policy or bills that we've passed, just Google us up, and we're pretty accessible. I try to be accessible and easy to get to for my voters, and so we like talking to our people.
Okay.
Excellent.
Well,
Awesome.
we appreciate you coming on the show today. We thank you for talking with us about just kind of what's happening, and giving people a little bit of an insight to what's happening behind the scenes there in Austin. So we appreciate you. We're looking forward to have you back on the show in the future. And to our listeners and to our viewers, we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Thank
Bye,
you, guys.
You've been listening to the Seeing Red podcast. It's always Texas politics and beyond. We present the facts and opinions. The Seeing Red podcast with your host, Andi Turner and Garrett Fulce. Thank you, and tune in next week. And please do us a favor, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode.